I would really love to invite to our virtual stage our first speaker, or actually this will be not a session, not a classical one at least. This will be a fireside chat. So please welcome Baruch Sadogursky.
Hey everybody.
Hello,
good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to the Cloud Builders Conference.
Cool. Welcome to our stage. It's a great pleasure to have you. Okay, Baruch, this event is for developers. And it might be so that I'm, as a developer, constantly hear something about DevOps. And I will even start to think, could I ever succeed in my developer career if I do not do anything with DevOps? Why everybody's talking about this? Should I know something about this? Should I start doing something practical on this? So let's discuss DevOps and how is that relevant to every single developer in the world. Sounds good?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's dig into it. There is a to unpack. There is a lot of uncertainty and kind of things that people don't know about DevOps, especially how it relates to developers and people who are not necessarily on the ops background but on the dev background. What is it? Why do you need it? Will it add more work to us, the developers, and all these kind of questions?
Awesome. Then my first question to you as a topic starter. Should I ever care about DevOps as a developer?
Yes. The answer is yes, for a number of reasons. The first of all is there is a lot in DevOps for us, the developers. It provides us with autonomy. We can see our code through all the way to production, something that is not necessarily happens when you have silos and you end writing code and then you kind of throw it over the fence to ops and you don't know what's happening with it. So you can see all your application through all the way to production. It's autonomy. It's also mastery. We can learn new tools, and DevOps, the technical expertise in DevOps called the SRE, the site reliability engineers or the service reliability engineers, and the SRE is about code. Infrastructure is code, is about code. All the modern tools of the ops side of the house are, in the end of the day, are about code. This is something that we know, that we like, so it's only natural that it's interesting for us and we can learn new stuff from it. And it also gives you purpose, or not gives you purpose, but kind of broadens your purpose. Now, not only you write code, you can actually see your code all the way through to production. You can verify that your code actually serves its purpose, which is making the life of your users and customers better. And all this is thanks to DevOps. There is also another reason. You don't have any other choice. We see how the industry moves towards DevOps, not because it's a kind of a plot against you, the developers, but just because that's the evolutionary pressure that the market, the reality puts on businesses. Business uses DevOps to provide better results, and that means that no one really cares if you personally like it or not.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So it's, let's say, semi-voluntary, semi-forced thingy for the developers,
it is
right?
forced, but you'd better get along and start enjoying it while you can.
This is good advice. Yeah, and I really love these options you mentioned. So yeah, I'm personally sold on what you said. Yeah, of course, understanding of what's happening with my code on the next steps is way. It's a good idea to know about this. Plus, I believe we all developers follow this always learning culture. I hope that majority of you folks follow this, and yeah, it's just something absolutely necessary for us to stay relevant day to day. So good. Sanchir, do you want to ask something?
Yeah, probably I can ask Baruch about how DevOps is related to the cloud, probably.
Yeah, and that's another very good question, and obviously there is a connection, and the connection is that let's take a step back. What is DevOps? DevOps is, in the end of the day, a set of collaboration practices that allow us to deliver software faster. If we talk about working together and the culture behind it, this is all not necessarily related to technology. But if we think about the technology behind it, and that's all the SRE practices, it has a lot to do with cloud native development. And by cloud native, I mean the set of practices that allow us to develop applications that we can release faster and then operate more successfully in production. Can we scale our software faster? Can we roll back our software faster and safer if we have a problem? Can we patch our software faster? Can we do experiments on live environment, stuff like feature flags, green blue deployment, and et cetera. All those can be done without cloud, but they are much easier to achieve. They're much more natural in the cloud native environment. And stuff like 12-factor app, microservices architecture, deploying to the cloud, all those make the achievement of DevOps goals easier and less painful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great. And yeah. Maxim, you can proceed.
I can elaborate on that. From what I see, every public cloud provider has a really great set of services to simplify life for DevOps engineers or maybe for developers who do DevOps. And if we go back to our initial topic, like should I care? So yes, I understand that it's a really good idea for developers to have knowledge and skills with DevOps practices. Then the question is following: why do we have a separate job title then, like DevOps engineers? And by the way, many companies are hiring DevOps engineers. So where is this borderline happening between dev department, ops department, developers, operations, DevOps? How do you structure this?
Yeah, so let me tell you one thing. DevOps engineers do not exist. DevOps engineers do not exist because the term itself doesn't make sense. We just mentioned how DevOps is a collaborative practice. It's a bunch of cultural approaches that allow the dev and the ops work better together. If that's the definition of DevOps, what are DevOps engineers? Collaboration engineers? What exactly they are engineering? What is their daily job? How making sure that dev and ops working better together can be an engineering discipline. Obviously, it is not. So there is a kind of a misunderstanding here. What people usually refer to as DevOps engineer is a bunch of engineering practices, but it's just not the right name. The correct terminology for that will be stuff like site reliability engineers or service reliability engineers, production engineers, infrastructure engineers. Those are the people who set up the infrastructure on which DevOps will occur. And DevOps, again, is a collaboration, right? So those people will set up the pipelines, will help dev and ops work together, will make sure that the developers understand the ops concepts, etc., etc. They are by no means DevOps engineers. And it's important, you might say, who cares, just call it whatever you like. But it's important because when you have a bunch of DevOps engineers in your organization, next thing you know, you have a DevOps department in which you have DevOps engineers. And DevOps department, it's actually an ops department just renamed. And then you're back to square one with the problem that you don't have the collaboration between dev and DevOps. So what do you do now? You can come up with a new methodology and call it DevDevOps. DevDevOps is a methodology that promotes collaboration between dev and DevOps. It doesn't make any sense. DevOps engineer do not exist.
Period. That's a statement, I say.
Yeah, very good statement, Jason.
To elaborate even further, so you mentioned that DevOps engineers still exist as job titles in the companies, and the whole DevOps department exists, and even whole companies focused exclusively on DevOps services, they also exist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's all abused, and there are market trends and buzzwords, and once the recruitment in industry starts peddling a term, it's very hard not to follow along. Today, if you are an infrastructure engineer or a production engineer, and you go on LinkedIn to search for your next career opportunity, you will probably look for a DevOps engineer job, even if you understand that this is wrong. But it doesn't make it right.
Got it. By the way, folks, all dear participants, I think we forgot to mention one very important thing for event in general and for this session in particular. Both me and Sanchiro, we don't want to be super selfish and to only ask our dear speakers only our questions. This is why we have a nice service called Slido to gather questions from you. I bet after this 15 minutes of our fireside chat, you got your own questions. And let me open this Slido UI myself to check. Maybe you already sent them. And I hope that our dear organizers, they pinned the link with corresponding Slido UI, and this will be a different link for every session to the top of the chat. Let me open this Slido myself. Maybe we already have some questions. I have to log in. Yeah, actually, you have to just provide your name, so we'll see who is asking. You can provide some imagery name if you wish. Yay! We have 3 questions, I see. And by the way, folks, also using Slido, you can vote for questions sent by other participants. And normally we pick the questions, if there are too many of them, which have more thumbs ups. So yes, if you see some cool questions, just vote for them, and we'll we'll see the most popular ones. So what do we have so far? Sancho, do you wish to read out some questions?
Yeah, probably I can take the first one. Yeah, it's something like how to be on the edge of Java technologies while keeping doing a work at company. Probably.
Well, it's a general question, right? It's not only about Java.
Yeah.
Obviously. It's a pain for everybody everywhere, and we can tie it to DevOps and say how do you learn about the latest trends in the DevOps space, especially considering that what I just said, that now it's your job to actually know it, and where is the line, especially considering that you have a full-time job. I think a lot of it's on the shoulders of your employer that has to understand that in order for you to stay up to date, you actually need to invest time in learning new things. And obviously, you can separate good employers from bad ones by asking this question: how do you help me staying up to date? And I think today, when the market is the market of the employee, and we can pick and choose where do we want to work, there is a huge demand for good engineers in the market. We can go ahead and pick, and we can say when we interview a company and ask them questions and decide whether they're worth of us as an employees, we definitely should ask this: how do you invest in my growth? Do I have dedicated time to learn? Do I have resources to learn? Will you pay for my education? And then pick the companies that actually support that. And the more we will do it, the more it will become a new norm, and others will follow suit. So we have a very good opportunity here to actually drive a very significant change in the industry.
Cool. You mentioned a really interesting thing that we as developers have to interview employers, right? And with the current situation on the job market, I believe this is what we have. This is current situation. This is definitely market of job seeker, not employer. Yes, I believe everyone knows this joke, which is only partially joke when CFO is asking CEO of the company, "What if we invest tons of money into our developers' development and they leave us?" And CEO is asking back, "But what if we do not invest and they stay?" So yes, it should be just win-win for both employer and developer. Being always learner. And we have more and more questions coming, and I see that on top of everything, the question from Dan: what should know developer or DevOps engineer? So you see people learn, so there is no separate DevOps engineer, so it's like via slash. So what should they know in 2021? What are the rising technologies on this area? So let's say, what's on hype?
I would say, especially if we are talking about the infrastructure production and the SRE, we know the answer. It's basically Kubernetes and everything that has to do with containers. It's been a hype for some time now. It doesn't look like it's going away. So if you want to learn one thing, that would be it. Containers and Kubernetes looks like the most efficient investment of your time. Even if you don't have to work with it on a day-to-day basis, because you do have SREs who set it up, and then you are just a user, you create an application that then got containerized and deployed on Kubernetes. Understanding how it works will help you doing better job in writing for it. And as I already mentioned, it's just a piece of software. It's a fascinating piece of software that promotes infrastructure as code, and code is something that we know and like. So I would say take a look at Kubernetes. It's fascinating. You're gonna like it. You're gonna hate it. Whatever. It's going to definitely help your career as well.
So is that only for me, or we lost the sound?
No.
I can hear you.
Because I didn't hear,
can hear you too.
What you said, Baruch. So hopefully that's only for me. So then,
Sancher, did you hear me?
I'll try to fix my sound.
Okay. So let's continue probably with the questions. We have also a question from Volodymyr. How to explain to management what purpose to have a DevOps engineer at the company if devs can do the same?
Now I missed the part. How to explain to manager what?
To management, what purpose to have DevOps engineer at the company if devs can do the same?
Нет, никого не слышу сейчас.
Yeah, so we're good, Maxim? Yeah, no, Maxim can't hear us, but I will answer anyway. So devs can do it anyway. Well, yes, but devs can do a lot of stuff. They can mop the floor, right? That's not a rocket science as well. The real question is, what will be the most efficient investment of your time and your knowledge? Will you be at your best writing code, or will you be at your best setting up Kubernetes? It might very well be that you are actually can contribute more to the company by doing something else, not what you are doing now, and this is fine as well. But generally, when you say, well, I'm a Java developer, I'm not sure how to do those things, the site reliability engineering things, it will be more efficient for the organization to have someone who is more specialized in that. You will work together. You will know what they are doing. They will know what you are doing. That's DevOps at its best. But in the end of the day, the deep specialization doesn't go away.
Ooh, I got sound. Good.
Yeah, great.
Yay, welcome back.
Cool, folks. Yes, this is live event. Everything can happen.
Yeah.
So since I lost context a bit, Sancher, please take the next question from the list, and then I'll.
Yeah, sure. We have also second question from the Den. No, it's the same question as we have earlier. So the second question is about containers and Windows. Is it something that we should use? I mean, originally containers and Linux are best friends, but what about Windows?
Servers are Linux, right? I think in one of the conferences that I attended in person, there was like a stand of the whatever, some kind of a Linux distribution. I don't remember, maybe it was SUSE, maybe it was Red Hat, and they have those stickers that says servers are Linux. We can argue if that's kind of a true statement 100% of the times, but I understand what they wanted to say. In the end of the day, if you go to production and if you go to the cloud, the servers are mostly Linux. the containers are mostly Linux. There are interesting setups in which you run on a Windows stack, and then you can use Windows for containers as well. But that's more of an exception than a rule, and it's kind of oddity. Again, if you want to hit like the majority of the market with your skills, I would say it's safe to assume that containers are Linux, and this is more or less the right answer in most of the times.
Fair enough. And by the way, in this questions on Slido, I see not a question, but sort of confirmation of your words, Baruch. Dan is writing, I think developers are responsible for DevOps as well. Why do we have another person to deal with that? So yes, I think you have more followers on that idea. And by the way, what's the perception of this statement? I bet you say this for multiple crowds, maybe on multiple conferences. What's the normal reaction of people, especially DevOps engineers?
That's I mean, I get this question about like, let's try to predict the future a lot. And I think it's a very, very hard question to answer because everything changes so rapidly. I would say if I need to pick a next trend, it will be the edge computing. It will be moving the compute to new places, to new areas, putting them in more distant locations to optimize the compute. And it brings tons of different interesting challenges. How do we update software there? How do we make sure that everything runs as possible? And if we think our problems now are hard in our data centers or the cloud that we control, those are nothing compared to the challenges of edge computing. But this is interesting. This is where the cloud computing was 5 or 10 years ago, and I think we will pick up very, very rapidly. And really, that's the next frontier, if you wish.
Got it. We have only a few seconds left for our Fireside chat. What could be your final advice, final recommendation for all our participants? So they will hear lots of tracks about development, about .NET, about Java and satellite areas. So what is like advice from Baruch?
I would say take a look at what your peers in ops, SRE, production engineering are doing. Be a T-shaped engineer. Not only go deep into what you are doing, but look around. And I would say, you know what, be a Z-shaped engineer. Look at all the other directions. Mm-hmm. Look what the SREs are doing. Look what the product are doing. Look what the testers are doing. Learn a little bit what their process looks like, what their tooling looks like. It will help you to be better at your primary job.
Awesome. I never heard term Z-shaped engineer or developer. And for those folks who are not speaking Russian, so this is a letter in this language, which is actually, I don't know how to describe this, maybe like simplified snowflakes, all directions. So be open-minded. This is great advice. Thank you very much, Baruch. Special kudos go to your background. So you literally provided us with a true fireside chat. And thanks for joining.
That's an idea, right?
Totally.
Thank you, Baruch.